Manny Robles, Andy Ruiz's trainer, has broken his silence and reacted to Andy Ruiz deciding to split ways and part with his trainer. He said the following. ESPN reported the following. Robles said he has had very little contact with Andy Ruiz since returning to the States and since Andy Ruiz being taken to school by Anthony Joshua on December 7th. However, he said he has received a phone call from Andy Ruiz's father, Andy Ruiz Sr., on Wednesday morning, requesting a meeting. The trainer understood immediately what would take place. He wasn't stopping by to say hello or to have lunch, that's for sure, Robles said, chuckling. For Robles, the split was inevitable from the moment the rematch with Joshua ended in December. I've seen it coming, he said. I'll be honest with you, Robles said late Wednesday night. I've seen it coming during camp. I saw it coming. Andy was just doing whatever the hell he wanted to. The dad, obviously with him being the manager, he just had no control over his son. None of us had any control over him, for that matter. So I just saw it coming. It wasn't going to work because he wasn't listening. He wasn't listening to me. He wasn't listening to his dad. He's not listening to anybody. He said it himself after the press conference in Saudi. He apologised to me and to his dad because he said he effed up. So I figured, okay, it's only a matter of time before I get the call. Fortunately for me, Andy took the blame on himself and didn't sit there like the majority of fighters and blame the coach. Well, there you go. That's the end of what Manny Robles had to say. I'm confused because Manny Robles kind of tries to make out here that, don't blame Andy. And what? Don't blame Andy. Andy's the one who's doing this. Now, people are blaming Al Heyman, but you're a big hardback man. And I wish that Manny Robles was more smoky, to be honest, because Andy Ruiz has shown no level of, he's just got no substance to his character. Now, people can sit there and say, oh, well, YB, you told Anthony Joshua to leave Robert McCracken. But that's completely different. Like I said before, when someone leaves a trainer, I haven't got a problem. In fact, I completely encourage fighters. If there are clear problems in your performances, which are possibly related to training, then I'd be the first person telling Andy Ruiz, you know what, you're probably right to do that. However, there wasn't nothing in that December 7th performance that had to do with training that I could see. And to be honest, he said it himself. Listen, he after the fight, he didn't sit there and say, oh, you know what, I've had a bad camp because Manny Robles wasn't turning up, or Manny Robles got my game plan wrong. The crazy thing about Andy Ruiz, he can never get his game plan wrong because he only ever has one game plan. He's like Mike Tyson, come forward and throw shots. It's not rocket science. So in that respect, Manny Robles and Andy Ruiz have a very simple relationship. If you come to the gym, I'm going to drill you in this. Yeah, there'll be some technical things to negotiate, like how you're actually going to get on the inside, but still, it's a pretty one-dimensional game plan. And even then, Andy Ruiz couldn't even turn up to do that. It's not like we're asking Andy Ruiz to come and start trying to learn how to be Floyd Mayweather. He couldn't even be bothered to turn up and do what he always does. He's lost his head. And the fact people are saying, oh, Al Heyman, no, Andy Ruiz needs to take this one. Regardless of what Al Heyman's done. Are you not a man? How can a little old 70-year-old frail Don called Al Heyman dictate what a big bubbly 300-pound dude Andy Ruiz is going to do? I just think, from Andy Ruiz's point of view, it's a bit of a shirk out, I feel. He's quite happy to have Manny Robles as a scapegoat, and I wish that Robles kind of roasted him. Again, maybe Robles is kind of thinking, oh, maybe I'll be able to work with him again. And actually, before I go, I've realised there's more to this article. It goes on. Robles, a veteran of the business, said he was told by Ruiz's father that it was Al Heyman's decision to replace him. Heyman advises Ruiz, who fights under the banner of Heyman's PBC. Manny Robles said, they apparently told Andy Ruiz and his father that they didn't want the same thing to repeat itself again, Robles said. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. It's not the first time it has happened to me. I'm sure it won't be the last time. I'm sure it won't be the last time. It happens time and time again. We always end up getting the short end of the stick, but it is what it is. You keep moving forward. Ruiz went from being a feel-good story of 2019 to a cautionary tale in just months, but Robles said he has still fond memories of the journey. He says, absolutely. Look, I've got to tell you, I'm absolutely grateful and blessed to have been able to experience everything that I was able to experience in 2019. I mean, we made history, and I have to be thankful for that. I have to be thankful to Andy and to his dad for giving me the opportunity to be part of something special, to have made history, for him to become the first Mexican heavyweight world champion. I really believed coming into the second fight that we were going to be able to do it again, but obviously you can't do that if the fighter isn't there, if the fighter doesn't want it. I did everything I could as a coach, and as a teacher, and as a friend. But again, as I said, if the fighter's not there, what can I do? Now, actually, that gives us some more insight here, because it kind of goes on to explain the delusion within Andy Ruiz's camp. Manny Robles said that he wasn't listening. He said he wasn't training. He wasn't turning up. Then we just heard there him talking about, I genuinely thought he could do it again. So that leads me to believe that it wasn't. I've been sitting here talking about how Andy Ruiz was delusional. Clearly his whole camp was. His whole camp literally thought that AJ was a 6'6", no good, stiff weightlifter who was completely chinless. Let's get it right. Andy Ruiz is not some mad, crazy puncher. And that's what they forgot. They actually started thinking somehow that, listen, Ruiz, you couldn't stop Parker. You couldn't. Who have you really stopped? In fact, categorically, your punching power, and I was saying this all the way since June 1st. I've been saying this categorically, historically. Ruiz is actually a light puncher. Yeah, he turns his shots over. Yeah, he looks pretty, but he doesn't actually have much snap in him. Go on the actual stats. He doesn't have many first round knockouts or many second round knockouts. He versus bums, he's going 7 or 8 rounds. He doesn't have concussive power. So obviously, and the crazy thing is, Manny Robles knows this. Andy Ruiz should know this, but what happened was, it's amazing how quickly fighters can become delusional. He had one alright performance. If you actually look at Andy Ruiz's performance on June 1st, it wasn't actually that good. AJ was just that bad, and that's what makes this crazy. Ruiz, you know your body. You've had 25 fights. How can you have 25 fights against known bums and not be able to stop any of them in the first round? Then all of a sudden, you fight a clone on June 1st, and he started drinking the Kool-Aid. Him and his training team started literally believing, so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, even though for the last 20 years of my career, I know I have no power, all of a sudden, just because I've had one anomalous performance, all of a sudden I think I've got some crazy God-fearing power now. And that's how he got, I don't know what he was thinking. His man was delusional, completely lost his head. And by the sounds of it, his training team also lost their head, because I thought Manny Robles should have been saying, I thought Andy Ruiz had a chance, but given the training performances, I knew he wasn't going to have it. This man's talking about, I knew he had a great shot, I knew he had a great chance, but he just wasn't there. Now don't get me wrong, I also agree Andy Ruiz didn't really turn up. He didn't turn up to really get stuck in, and it's crazy to see that. It didn't take long, did it? Andy Ruiz is known as this kind of gritty fighter. It didn't take long. Where was the Mexican heart at? It wasn't nowhere to be found. He didn't really want to go for it. And that's something that some fighters have or don't have. Andy Ruiz, in my opinion, has proven now that he doesn't really want it. And we saw that, to be honest, in the first fight. Look how slow and useless AJ was. Anyone who really was about it, like, for example, Mike Tyson. Show me a time in Mike Tyson's career, in the prime of his career, where he sat at mid-range and just let someone who was half dead stand there. You just don't see it. In fact, never mind that. Never mind half dead. Show me a time in Mike Tyson's prime when he let anyone just stand there. No matter what. Whenever the fight was in session, Mike Tyson was coming forward. He was either slipping and moving or whatever. He was always coming forward. That's not Andy Ruiz. Even in the first fight when he was fighting someone who was... I've said it many times. AJ in that first fight was begging for a good shot to hit him. He was begging to be put out of his misery, was he not? AJ was begging for it, and Ruiz couldn't muster it. He spent most of the fight at mid-range, just standing there waiting. He doesn't have that real killer instinct about him. And that's what was missing in the second fight as well. In my opinion, he still would have got his head jabbed off, but still, he could have made it a better show, in my opinion. He could have really said... He doesn't have that it's me or you mentality. That Mexican mentality where, like, for example, Chisora. Chisora's got the best example of that. Chisora versus Dillian White. I say it all the time, but I'll say it again. Chisora versus Dillian White, yeah? Chisora believes he's down on the cards. He says, you know what? Rather than lose this on the cards, I'm prepared to stick my chin up and no. Rather than lose this fight on the cards, I'm prepared to get knocked out trying to win. Does that make sense? It's being prepared. Are you prepared to get knocked out trying to win, or are you going to be you know what, David Haye versus Klitschko? Oh, you know what, I'll be one of them guys who loses on points. See what I mean? That's the choices you've got: David Haye or Derek Chisora. And even Chisora versus Haye is a great example of that. Once again, Chisora's happy to stick his chin up and to start swinging than he is to lose on his back, lose easily. And that's something very rare, especially this day and age. I can't think of many fighters today who have that, full stop, to be honest. And apart from Chisora, if I'm sitting here thinking, apart from Chisora, it's rare, man. It's very, and even, to be honest, even throughout history, that quality, that being prepared to be knocked out, going for the win, it's extremely rare. But what we do know is, Andy Ruiz don't have that. Don't have a bit of it. So this whole, in my opinion, is always going to be his strategy is always going to be flawed somewhat, because you don't have that. Because to be a come forward fighter, you've got to be prepared to get clipped, because you're always going to be getting clipped, because you're always going to be walking into danger. And you've got to either... Mike Tyson kind of got over that by being able to move his head, so he was able to negate some of that initial fear by knowing most of these guys aren't going to be able to hit me. But anyway, I digress. Fact of the matter is, Andy Ruiz is a one-dimensional fighter, and he can't even really do that one dimension well. He can't really commit to that one dimension well. And having said that, in this particular stuff with Manny Robles has let me down a bit. Number one, because it sounds, or from what I'm reading here, it implies that he was kind of endorsing Andy Ruiz's lazy behaviour, and also he's saying things like, initially at the start of the interview, he said, oh yeah, you know, I'm glad that Andy Ruiz took responsibility. Well, he didn't, did he really? Yeah, on the night, in front of the cameras, he said, oh, I've made a mistake, I'm sorry. But taking responsibility would have been, on the night, I'm sorry, coach. And then guess what? On Monday, he should have been knocking on the door saying, coach, let's get back to gym. That would have been taking responsibility. Taking responsibility isn't on TV, oh, I'm so sorry, coach. Then, 6 weeks later, and the crazy thing is, Andy Ruiz didn't even have the backbone to actually tell Manny Robles himself. He's let his dad do it. What does that say about the character of the man? If you're 13 years old and you're quitting your football team, you know what? If you want your parents to do it, whatever. But you're a 30-year-old man, and this guy's meant to. I've heard Andy Ruiz say in the past that, oh, this man's like my dad. What? And you treat your so-called dad like that? Just mug him off and ignore his texts and don't speak to him for 5 weeks, and then dump him by a message. Come on, man. You got to do better than that. And on this basis, people who we already know we already know Andy Ruiz struggles with his weight, so we already know he's someone who's got excuses. He's always got. So I can just tell his career ain't gonna go how I want it to go. I've been sitting and talking about, if Andy Ruiz can get to 230 pounds, he could be one of the best fighters for the last few decades or whatever and whatnot. He just ain't got it in him. He hasn't got that substance about him. The way he's going, in my opinion, it's going to be he's running away from his demons. He runs away from that weight issue. Yeah? He hasn't addressed that yet. He's running away from the training issue. Rather than standing up and be counted and saying, you know what, man, I'm taking responsibility for this. Let me get my big bubbly self back to the gym. Straight away. Let's get back on it. And when you get whooped like that, yeah, and if he couldn't get straight back to the gym after being whooped, I just can't see what's going to entice him. If you can't get back to the gym after losing your belts that you've only just got, what's going to entice you? What, fighting Luis Ortiz? Don't get me wrong, that'd be a great fight, but from his point of view, if you can't get motivated for a unification, massive, biggest pay-per-view event in history, are you really going to get motivated for anything else? And also, he came in his worst shape, by the way. Never mind nothing else. It's not like he came in average. He came in worse than ever. I just don't see it. And the fact he's made bad decision after bad decision, which implies to me, in the fact he's sacked Manny Robles now, another crazy bad decision. That tells me he ain't taking no responsibility and he hasn't changed. And it's going to be more of the same. If not, it sounds to me like he's deteriorating. He's completely losing his head now. Sacking your trainer that got you to where you are. Are you mad? But yeah, I wish that hopefully in the future Manny Robles comes out and roasts Andy Ruiz. In my opinion, Andy Ruiz needs a good roasting. And the problem is, not enough people have been prepared to give it to him. Having read this from Manny Robles, sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm thankful for that. He took responsibility. Oh yeah, well, I genuinely thought he was going to knock AJ out." It sounds to me like he was part of the bandwagon. You should have been taking a step back and saying, "No, Andy Ruiz, I don't think you're going to knock him out in this shape. No, Andy Ruiz, I don't think you're taking responsibility by sacking me and not training for the last 6 weeks after getting whooped." That's my opinion anyway.